Greetings, my name is Monty Martin.
And I'm Kelly McLaughlin, and we are the Dungeon Dudes.
Welcome to our Fighter Subclass tier ranking for the 2024 Player's Handbook.
Today we'll be analyzing the features of the Battlemaster, Champion, Eldritch Knight, and Psi Warrior subclasses to determine which ones offer the strongest augmentations to the core fighter class.
There's a lot to discuss, so let's get rolling. Our Fighter Subclass tier ranking is sponsored by Obvious Mimic, creators of Solo Adventures for 5th edition.
Their latest solo adventure, The Secrets of Oki Island, is now available.
This is packed with swashbuckling action, open seas, and hidden treasures, where you get to play a character of your very own design in a world that is both whimsical and deadly.
Sail with the scoundrels of the Rapier Wit in an interactive solo adventure complete with dice rolls and real consequences.
You can make your own 5th edition character however you usually roll one up. The story is crafted so that all characters can succeed or fail.
Fight monsters, cast spells, and find treasure within this original story.
You can make progress with loot and experience that you keep in a regular tabletop game.
A solo adventure is a perfect way to test out your new character concepts or go on an adventure in between sessions or play alone with real stakes if you don't have a game to join.
So forever DMs, follow the links below and you can check out their other hit solo adventures, including The Wolves of Langston.
Be sure to use the discount code DungeonDudes10 to get 10% off of your purchase.
And now, on to the Fighter tier ranking.
Up on screen, you'll see the criteria we use when ranking the subclasses.
We rank the subclasses against other subclasses available to the fighters, and not across classes.
While we may occasionally consider multi-classing, we primarily rank based on a single classed character.
And we look at all levels of play in our tier ranking, considering how the subclass performs in combat, exploration, and social interaction. Although for many subclasses, their features are combat-oriented, so that tends to get the lion's share of the weight in our ranking.
So when we are ranking the subclasses, an S tier is for a class that is extraordinarily powerful with their features that enhance the base class in game-changing ways. They're going to offer overpowered features which can dominate common adventuring scenarios, especially combat in most situations.
A tier is the perfect place. We want to see most classes land in the A tier because they have strong benefits applicable in combat, exploration, and social interaction, and great synergy with the class, skills, feats, and spells.
B tier is also an excellent place for a subclass to land. It has good features which excel with the right build. It offers viable options which contribute to most pillars of play and may even potentially be S tier in the right campaign or with the right party composition.
C tier is niche, and it has features that might rarely come up in play unless you're doing a very specific build or combo. There might also be a high opportunity cost for a C tier subclass, which means that there's some trade-off that you have to do in order to make it function well.
And D tier are for subclasses whose features are seldom useful and it doesn't synergize well with the base class features, spells, feats, or skills. It may be a trap playstyle, which actually weakens the strength of the base class. So if we give a D tier out, that's us saying, don't play it.
With that, let's dive into the 2024 Player's Handbook and look at the fighter subclasses.
Let's kick things off by talking about the Battlemaster. The Battlemaster is the subclass that has Battlemaster maneuvers and superiority dice. They use the dice to fuel their maneuvers so that they can do extra things whenever they are attacking or possibly as reactions, or to just change the way that the fighter interacts with many pillars of play.
So at level 3, when you gain the subclass, you get your first pool of superiority dice. You're going to start off by learning 3 maneuvers. So you get to pick any 3 of the 20 that are in the player's handbook. And you've got 4 superiority dice, which power those maneuvers. Your superiority dice come back on a short rest. So you've got lots of ability to use these. They're pretty replenishable overall. Also at 3rd level, the Student of War feature is going to give you training in an extra skill or tool.
At level 7, you gain Know Your Enemy, and now as a bonus action, you can target a creature within 30 feet of you and learn some information about it. You can learn what type of monster they are, as well as their resistances or vulnerabilities or immunities. And you can use this once before needing to take a short rest, but you can also expend a superiority die to use it again.
And also at level 7, you're going to learn 2 more maneuvers, and you're going to go up to 5 superiority dice.
At level 10, you gain improved combat superiority Now your superiority die is a D10 instead of a D8, and you get additional maneuvers, 2 of them, bringing you to a total of 7.
At level 15, we gain the Relentless feature, and this feature is amazing. Now what we can do is, instead of expending a superiority die, once per turn, we can just roll a d8 to power one of our maneuvers. This basically means that we have infinite maneuvers. Again, only once per turn, but this feature is really, really powerful when combined with some of the reaction-based maneuvers, as well as the maneuvers that are going to be augmenting your skills, or the ones that are going to be augmenting your AC. It gives an extraordinary amount of flexibility. And at this point, for everything else, we've now got 2 extra maneuvers. So we now know 9 out of the 20, and we get 6 superiority dice total.
At level 18, we get the ultimate combat superiority, and now our die increases to 1d12. So not only do we have a ton of maneuvers, a ton of dice to use, they're all d12s now, so you're adding quite a bit to all of your rolls if you want to.
The maneuvers that are available to the Battlemaster are really amazing. Maneuvers like bait and switch and evasive footwork actually let you roll the superiority die and add that to your armor class, or even an ally's armor class as well, while also giving you a little bit of footwork and maneuvering.
I think that if you look at some of the options such as Commander Strike and Maneuvering Attack, these are going to grant attacks or movement to allies. So be a better team player as a Battlemaster.
Maneuvers like Ambush, Commanding Presence, and Tactical Assessment actually let you roll your superiority die and add that to skill checks. So Ambush applies to stealth and initiative checks. Commanding Presence is going to apply to persuasion, intimidation, and performance. And Tactical Assessment can be used for investigation, or it can also be used for history, incidentally. What's really cool about these is that I like the idea of stacking this extra superiority die roll with some second wind if you need it. The combination of these things are going to let your fighter power through some skills when you really need to.
I also think Precision Attack is just a classic option for a general accuracy boost. If you are worried that you're missing that attack and you're fighting against a high AC target, that superiority die could make all the difference in taking it down.
Menacing Attack, Pushing Attack, and Trip Attack, as well as a bunch of others that basically add a rider onto one of your attacks, are strong debuffs, but they're also going to add extra damage to every hit that you're making as well. And what I think is really cool about the things like Menacing Attack, Pushing Attack, and Trip Attack is that these are the ones that you can really combine with weapon masteries. So if you wanted to create a situation, a lot of other fighters, they can't do that thing where all fighters gain this ability at 9th level where they can switch around what their masteries are. They can actually apply the push mastery, the slow mastery, and the sap mastery to anything. But with a Battlemaster, you could do this thing where you actually trip someone over and push them, which is really, really good battlefield control. Or I really like the idea of pushing somebody back with a push weapon mastery when you hit them with Menacing Attack, because a creature that is frightened of you can't move closer to you. So there's really cool ways that these maneuvers stack around with the weapon masteries in a really beautiful way. Normally you might look at these features and be like, well, why would I take Pushing Attack if I already have the push mastery? Or why would I take Trip Attack when I can use a topple weapon? And the whole point of this is so that you can do both at the same time.
I do think that as a last call out, parry and riposte are excellent choices to add to your reactions. So having the ability to use superiority dice and get a little extra bit in there for a reaction is pretty cool.
I like riposte the most, I think, because getting to hit somebody back when they miss you, especially with all the ways that fighters can boost their AC. Like, just for example, setting up that situation of bait and switch where you've now boosted your AC by plus D10, and now an enemy that misses you with your boosted AC, you're going to slam them back with a reaction attack. It's great. And this is where like things like Relentless really kick into overdrive, because Relentless is once per turn, which means that once you get that Relentless feature at 15th level, it means that you always have those maneuver reactions available.
Because riposte would happen not on your turn.
Yeah.
So you can use your D8 on your turn to do a second maneuver. And then if you get attacked and missed, you can riposte using the D8. So you're not expending your superiority dice.
Yeah. And like, it's really easy. I've seen fighters like Joe blow through the superiority dice by applying like a menacing attack, a pushing attack, a trip attack on every turn. And the masteries help with this because you don't necessarily always need to do that. But then again, Relentless is going to give you more gas.
Yeah.
Right. It's such a big boost. And so all of these things together, the Battlemaster is the Battlemaster. Like,
it's so there's so many good things to say about a fighter. Fighters are the most versatile class in the game. You can build them any number of ways, and they're really good in combat. And now there are also a lot of ways that they can kind of steamroll through social encounters and help out with exploration. Obviously they're best in combat, but you're not laughing at them anymore in social or exploration. The thing about the Battlemaster is that it increases the versatility of the fighter, it increases their capabilities in combat, and it increases their capabilities in social and exploration as well, depending on the maneuvers you pick. You can double down on all the things you want your fighter to be good at. So why are we not all playing Battlemasters?
Well, I think that the challenging thing is, at least at first, it's with only 3 maneuvers at 3rd level, it's really hard to narrow down your choices.
Yeah.
Right? And then only having 5, it makes it really tough. But this is where I think the weapon masteries really help out, because with the weapon masteries, maybe you can delay getting pushing and tripping attack and grab the really juicy ones like bait and switch or commanding presence or riposte early. And then when you start to get those higher level features like tactical mastery online, adding push and trip just adds so much to all of this. I really think and the fact that the Battlemaster will work with any sort of fighting style, whether you want to go with the archer build, whether you want to go with the Great Weapon Master, whether you want to go with the defensive Shield Master fighter, especially with the way that feats like Shield Master now work and the way that Great Weapon Master work, all of these things, the synergy is just so good.
I think we have to stick the Battlemaster at an S tier.
I do too. I really think that it was one of those things where, especially in the 2024 rules, you go, have weapon masteries robbed the Battlemaster of what makes them unique? And the answer to that is very much no.
The Battlemaster just gets to do more.
Yes. They just do more.
Do you want to push and topple at the same time? Go for it.
Yeah.
Having more options on your single attack. You hit with your weapon and you want to do a bunch of things when you hit with your weapon? Cool, done.
Again, I love like the topple and menacing. Like those are just such good things.
Yeah.
Right? To be having all these together at the same time. It just all really, really works well together. So I think unequivocally, given the fact that it opens up so many playstyles, works with basically every class, and now we have maneuvers in here that are adding to your skills. And I also want to point out that know your enemy is not useless. Like bonus action just to be like, yeah, DM, what are the resistances and immunities? Just tell them to me.
Yeah. It's great.
And we do get the extra skill in the tool, which is cute. It's not much, but it's better than nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're still clearly in the S tier for the Battlemaster, right? I think anytime you sit down to play a fighter, you're going to be like, am I playing a Battlemaster again? And the answer is often going to be yes.
Now we move on to the champion. The champion fighter has always kind of been the bread and butter fighter. They are the baseline. They are what they are. They're a champion fighter.
I would say I would use another B&B term, the basic
battle person.
Basic battle person. Yeah, the basic battler. Certainly they are.
I think the champions are great for like somebody. You know what I actually love champions for? one-shots where I had no time to prepare. Often
Yes.
a one-shot I will have time to prepare, but if somebody's like, hey, do you want to jump in and play D&D in an hour? I'm like, yeah, I got a champion fighter. Let's go. Because I don't need to worry about the champion fighter. The champion fighter is going to do what the fighter does, and it's going to do it a little bit of extra sauce on top of that. So at level 3, they gain their improved critical. So now they can crit on a 19 or 20. And also at level 3, they gain Remarkable Athlete. Remarkable Athlete gives them advantage on initiative and athletics. So at level 3, we're more likely to crit, and we're a little bit better at a few skills.
At level 7, we get an extra fighting style feat, which is cool. The fighting style feats are pretty specialized, right? So this is a good place to grab like one of the more secondary ones, even just to boost your AC, or if you want to have more of a switch hitter style to it. Like, this is kind of nice if you want to be an archer or a dual wielder and have both the archery and dual wielding fighting styles at the same time. So you can decide, I just want to be good at both of these things.
I think that's actually one of the benefits here, is that the champion is maybe the best switch hitter amongst the fighters. At 10th level, we gain Heroic Warrior. This is going to grant you heroic inspiration every turn. What that means, heroic inspiration allows you to re-roll a d20.
Actually, it's not just a d20. It's a re-roll anything.
Re-roll anything.
You could re-roll your damage.
Okay. I would use it on a d20 probably, a saving throw, to hit. Yeah. I think those are more, but sure, you can use it on anything.
Yeah, I've had a point. I just say that because it's been pointed out to us in the comments that you use it to reroll damage. I don't know,
but you only get to reroll one die.
Yeah,
and if I'm using a greatsword, but most weapons use one die, and there's just the niche ones that don't. But every turn means that if I don't like an attack that I made on this turn, and I let's say I have my extra attack, so I attack, I hit. I attack and it doesn't look good, so I'm going to use my Heroic Warrior feature to re-roll it, and I hit again. Next turn, same thing. I still got it. I got it every turn. So if I miss one of my attacks, I can just re-roll and try to hit. Pretty great. This is actually probably the iconic feature of the champion.
The only thing to note here is that you get Heroic Inspiration if you start your turn with a crit. Because
you can't stack up, so use it every turn.
You can only have Heroic Inspiration once.
Yeah.
And normally under the rules, if you gain Heroic Inspiration when you already have it, you give Heroic Inspiration to somebody else. So that would be the only thing that doesn't work here, is just keeping the inspiration and being the wellspring of giving it out to everybody else.
So it has to be for you.
It has to be for it has to be for you. And so for that reason, this is the skill thing that makes this tricky to use. Is if you use it on your attacks to reroll a missed attack, that's a good use of it.
Yeah.
Keeps you more reliable. But there might be situations where I'm really worried if I'm going to get hit with a nasty saving throw ability. And then so you keep it, but then if it gets around to your turn and you didn't use it, you're not getting any
I would say, depending on the combat you're in, if I'm fighting a bunch of orcs, I'm going to use it to hit my attacks. Yeah. If I'm fighting the evil lich, I might save it every turn. And if I don't use it, I'm still keeping it for the deadly debuff things that lich is going to throw at me. I would rather not use it and have it just there in case I have to roll against banishment or mind control of some sort or something ridiculous like that.
So then at level 15, superior critical is now going to be an 18 to 20.
That's actually a pretty awesome range. The amount of critical hits that you're going to be scoring with this character are pretty good. And depending on what rules you use for critical, we have very generous critical rules at our table. Could get ugly for the bad guys. Yeah.
And then at level 18, you're going to get Survivor, which is actually 2 features. Defy Death, which makes you more likely to succeed death saves, and basically means that you get up. You could normally when you roll you have to roll a 20 to get back up on a death save. Defy Death gives you a larger range for that. And Heroic Rally gives you kind of a regeneration when you're bloodied. This is one of the few class features in the game that actually cares about the bloodied condition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Champion, overall, listen, here's the thing. Champion is in no way a bad choice.
No, it's fine.
It's also in no way the best choice.
Yeah, it's just fine.
It's good at what it does. Do you want to not worry about words on your character sheet? Do you not want to, try not to forget that you have a crit range that's better than everybody else's? And that's really all you need to keep track of in your head when you're playing a champion fighter.
So there's nothing about the champion fighter that is bad. And you're right. So it by definition it cannot go in the D tier because there's nothing is being taken away here. There's nothing about the champion fighter that is niche.
So
right?
It's not C tier because it's useful. It's always useful.
Every single feature here is useful. It's just that there's the biggest detriment to the champion is that, well, the features that it gets work with and everything, you know what the champion lacks? Synergy. It doesn't have anything that interacts with other fighter class features or other feats in a particularly notable way. Like, rerolls are good. Critting more often is good. But there's no, like, crazy combo or build here that we're gonna suddenly be able to do that we couldn't do before.
The champion always makes me feel, and I know that there is stuff here, but the champion makes me feel like it's asking me, do you like the base fighter? Would you like to be the base fighter with like some whipped cream on top?
Yes.
And like that's the champion. The champion is, I am playing the base fighter with more of a chance to crit. But I don't hate that. Again, I have played champion fighters. I've brought them to tables when I'm playing in like a quick Adventures League game or like a quick one-shot. Champion's actually my go-to because I forget things on a character sheet unless I've done a lot of research and tried to memorize it all. Champions, I never have a problem with remembering what to do.
And that is where I think the champion falls into that criteria. One of the criteria of our B tier ranking is it depends on the build. And I mean, the champion, you can't really build it wrong. And it also is S tier in the right campaign. And when is the champion S tier in the right campaign? Well, I would say in this case, it's S tier for the right player. The champion is an S tier choice for the type of player that is actually going to have trouble managing their other abilities or forgetting to use them. You know who those are. You know who they are. Right? And because a champion, the only thing I will say is that the only risk is with the champion that you forget to use your reroll. Or that you forget that you crit on a 19.
Yeah.
And which those are two things that are pretty hard to forget.
They're as prominently in your face as like if you forgot to rage as a barbarian, which you probably won't do.
And there's no wrong way to use them. Like with a Battlemaster, it is technically possible with a Battlemaster to choose maneuvers that
don't synergize.
Like it's hard, but you can build a bad Battlemaster.
Yeah. Champion, you can't actually build it bad, but I do think it's a B tier because it's not really excelling at anything. It's just good.
Yeah.
It is baseline good.
B. Next, the Eldritch Knight. The Eldritch Knight adds wizard spell casting to the fighter. So at level 3, you start off by learning any 2 wizard cantrips of your choice, and you get 3 first level wizard spells prepared. You can choose any wizard spell. There is no spell school restriction. So if you want to grab transmutation, you want to grab illusion, you want to grab enchantment, you even want to be a necromancer. You could be a necromancer Eldritch Knight if you want to. You regain these spell slots on a long rest only. But of course, your cantrips are at will and you can use them all the time.
At level 3, you're going to gain War Bond. Now your weapon is bonded to you, and if you're separated from it or anything like that, you can actually call it back. So you can kind of Thor your way through things. Like if you want to throw your sword at somebody and then call it back.
Or a
trident. Returning trident is really cool. Or if you're crafty, like Eldritch Knights that I've seen at the table, and somebody takes your weapons away and tries to tie you up, you can still call it back to your hand.
It is cool in certain situations. Now, here's one interesting thing to know. The Warbond feature doesn't let you treat your sword or your weapon as an arcane focus. You're still using regular arcane foci or material components. So some dungeon masters might be a stickler about somatic components or material components and what you are holding in your hands. So this is an important thing to note with the Eldritch Knight. Fortunately, a lot of the best spells available for Eldritch Knights only have verbal components. The other thing as well is that the rules around drawing and sheathing weapons as part of the attack action are actually quite forgiving with Eldritch Knights. So if at the start of your turn you need to cast a spell, you can sheath your weapon and then you can do your spell casting, and then when you take the attack action, you can draw your weapon before or after making the first attack anyways. So it's one of those things that it sometimes gets brought up as like, oh, but watch about what's happening in your hands. But the rules for equipping and unequipping weapons kind of work out in the Eldritch Knight's favor, and it's kind of possible to choose a selection of spells where it doesn't matter too much. This is the other component where your intelligence can matter.
Yeah.
Because your spellcasting is based on your int. But it's also possible to take an Eldritch Knight to play an Eldritch Knight, especially with no spell skill restrictions, where all the spells are just passive buffs that do not care.
Yeah, if most of your spells are focusing on you, then you don't really care what your intelligence score is. Yeah. It's really only if you're whipping out fireballs or things like that you're going to need other creatures to make saves against your intelligence. So, just depending on your build. At level 7, you gain War Magic. This is a very important feature for Eldritch Knights because it's going to let you replace one of your attacks with a cantrip when taking the attack action. Note that because we're level 7, that means that we already have extra attack from our level 5 fighter feature, so you are inherently at the 2 attack mark, and you're only going to get more as you level up. So replacing one of them with a cantrip, pretty awesome.
Now, if you're keeping only to the player's handbook, you might be tempted to put it's hard to use War Magic because of a couple different reasons. Most of the cantrips in the game are spell attack based, which are based on your intelligence, which unless you're building an Eldritch Knight around your intelligence, which there's pros and cons. It means that, for example, your attack bonus with your basic attack is going to be based on your strength or dexterity, which is going to be really good. But then you're going to have this much lower accuracy with like Firebolt or something. This is where it's worthwhile going back to the Xanathar's Guide to Everything blade cantrips like Booming Blade and Green Flame Blade and picking up one of those because those allow you to attack as part of the attack and add additional damage as well.
So check with your DM if you are using books from the 2014 5th edition rules, such as Xanathar's and Tasha's, because there are some really good spells for Eldritch Knights in there.
Yeah.
Also at level 7, you're going to gain your 2nd level spell slot, which is valuable. And now you get 5 spells prepared as well.
Now at level 10, you get Eldritch Strike. And what this does is that when you hit someone with an attack, they actually have disadvantage on their next saving throw against a spell that you cast.
Nice.
So this can allow you to sort of power through circumstances where your saving throw DC is not that great to stick a saving throw spell. This is one of those features that, again, depending on how you build your Eldritch Knight, you might get a lot out of it, or you might not get that much about it. But also at level 10, we get an extra wizard cantrip. So yay.
And at level 13, we're going to get 3rd level spell slots. And I'm not going to lie, 3rd is probably one of my favorite spell levels. Something about 3rd level spells, just they up the potency of spellcasting.
This is now fighters don't normally get another subclass feature at level 13, but Eldritch Knights are kind of special because this is when they are getting their 3rd level spell slots, and it is like getting an extra class feature at level 13 because 3rd level spells are so juicy.
Yeah, like let's be real. I mean, Fireball isn't always the best choice for Eldritch Knight, but Fireball is a 3rd level spell, and that kind of is like the poster child for like, oh yay, 3rd level spells. But you also get things like Haste and Hypnotic Pattern. A lot of my favorite spells are 3rd level.
At level 15, you get Arcane Charge. What this does is let you teleport 30 feet as part of your action surge, which is just extra mobility. It's sweet.
At level 18, we get Improved War Magic. So with Improved War Magic, you can forego 2 attacks to cast a 1st or 2nd level spell. I wish it was 3rd, because I want to throw a Fireball and then attack again. But again, we're at 18th level, so the fighter's going to have lots of attacks, and they can spare maybe a couple if you have the right spell that can dismantle the combat encounter.
At level 19, this is also when the Eldritch Knight finally gets 4th level spell slots. They actually only ever get 1 4th level spell slot, and at this point you'll have 12 spells known or prepared. You do get 1 more at 20th level, so for 13 known spells total. For the 4th level spell slot for the Eldritch Knight can be pretty impactful, even though you're only going to be using it once per day, mostly because of some pretty sweet spell choices that you get there. On that note, let's talk about what some of the spells that we can get here are, because it really is relevant to how this subclass ranks up. Blade Ward is an amazing cantrip now, because Blade Ward is a concentration cantrip that subtracts D4 from attack rolls against you. So basically, while you're concentrating on Blade Ward, your AC is +1 D4.
Yeah, that's the shorthand way to put it. So if you are playing that maybe the shield bearer style fighter, or you just want to up your defenses, Blade Ward's incredible. There's also a lot of utility cantrips that you can look at here. Things like Mage Hand and Minor Illusion are just excellent choices for out of combat options. Mage Hand, the amount of times that spell has been useful for fiddling around with a trap or grabbing something from across a pit of lava or something. There's lots of options for how Mage Hand and Minor Illusion can be invaluable to a fighter.
Now, there's a lot of attack cantrips, and you might be tempted to grab something like Firebolt or Acid Splash, or even True Strike. The thing to note with True Strike is that when you use True Strike, you make a melee attack, but it's using your spellcasting ability modifier, which in many cases for Eldritch Knights is going to be lower than their strength or dexterity. So that's why the blade cantrips from Xanathar's Guide to Everything, like Booming Blade and Green Flame Blade, are better because those attacks actually use your at least because they haven't been reprinted at time of filming, these cantrips use your regular ability score modifier. But what's notable about Booming Blade is that what happens is starting at 5th level, it adds an extra damage to the base hit, meaning that you're just getting extra damage on your extra attacks, especially once you're at 7th level and you've got War Magic. Booming Blade is also really sweet because if the target then moves, they take extra damage. And this is sweet with the push weapon mastery because you can hit someone with Booming Blade and you get to activate the weapon mastery as part of Booming Blade as well. So you hit them, push them. Now they're 10 feet away from you. And if they want to walk back up to you, they're going to take even more damage. And you're also sitting there with AC a billion because you've got the shield spell, which you're going to get for your first level spell.
Yeah, for first level spells, again, the great defensive option here is shield. Take it. Just an armored knight with shield is better than anybody else taking shield. It's scary. Find Familiar is another great choice here. Who doesn't want a pet? And the one thing to note about your Familiar is they're very helpful for, first of all, out of combat uses. They can also take the help action, which gives you advantage on an attack. So Find Familiar, whatever you want your pet to be. Is it an owl?
Find Familiar is a ritual, so it's not going to cause you to use your spell slots to cast it, and you just get to have your little buddy.
Absorb Elements, also from Xanathar's Guide to Everything. So if you are playing with that book in play, then Absorb Elements is also a great one to deal with those elemental attacks, and then you get to soak up some of that damage and deliver it back.
2nd level spells, which come online at 7th level for the Eldritch Knight, really are where things are going to get taken to the next level, and the choices here get tough because you only got a couple spell slots here, but almost all these are going to have a massive impact. Misty Step, first of all,
Maneuverability,
just to bamf around. Yeah, is always a great bread and butter here.
I think that also, again, I like the defensive play style here. So Mirror Image is one that, like, not only can you bust out your shield and your Blade Ward, but you can also mirror image so that there's like 4 of you or 5 of you or however many of you there are. And that makes it way hard. Like a mirror imaged Eldritch Knight who also uses shield and Blade Ward.
And is in full plate with a shield and the fighting style that just gives them +1 AC.
How do you hit them?
You don't.
You don't.
You don't.
You don't. Yeah. I also think that for more out of combat options, enhanceability can be really helpful for just making sure that your fighter shores up those social or exploration options.
Now, the real sauce though here, and I think that this one is gem for the Eldritch Knights for 2nd level, is Enlarge Reduce. Enlarge Reduce has so much weird utility because it can be used on objects and other people to shrink them down or make them bigger. But if all you do with Enlarge Reduce is cast it on yourself to embigify you so that you become large, adding 1d4 damage to the damage of all your attacks, and giving you advantage on strength checks and strength saving throws, you are large and in charge. It is great. It's simply good. Or, for bonus points, play a Goliath Eldritch Knight and cast Enlarge Reduce on yourself so that you are now huge.
Yeah. And your carrying capacity. Like, what do you want to lift?
Yeah.
Anything? Cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a really fun option. When we actually get to the 3rd level spells, a lot of the classics are here. Counterspell, Fireball, Fly, Haste, all third level spells, all great on a fighter. Nobody expects the fighter to be the one to counterspell the deadly spell from the evil wizard, but you could.
Yeah, counterspell though is a con saving throw, so it is a little, again, if you don't have the good saving throw DC, it's a little bit harder for you to land that one.
Fly and Haste might be the better options for somebody who doesn't invest in their intelligence, but still, a flying fighter is scary.
Yes, and Haste is everything you want.
Just don't lose concentration.
Well, you got a good con saving throw. I also think that if you're going to Xanathar's Guide to Everything, especially if you're playing a dual wielder fighter, Spirit Shroud is going to be adding a lot of extra D8s on all of your hits. So it is very worth considering. And for a dual wielding fighter, Spirit Shroud might be more damage than Haste.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then finally for 4th level spells, again, upping the damage with Conjure Minor Elementals. Or if you're looking for maneuverability, Dimension Door is a good pickup.
Conjure Minor Elementals is a bit of a ludicrous spell with the way that it's written, because it's adding 2d8 to every attack. Of course, we are now a 19th or 20th level fighter. So by the time you get 4 attacks and Action Surge, yeah,
it's gross.
Yeah, it's pretty disgusting. Yeah. So, okay. I think that the Eldritch Knight is S tier now.
I can't even argue with that. The amount of spell options, and let's be real, I would include Xanathar's Guide. Unless if you're just getting into D&D, you may even want to look back at Xanathar's Guide from the 2014 rules and maybe implement that, because that has a lot of great options.
Oh, yeah. You know what? Caveat, asterisk, S tier with the Xanathars in play.
A+ without it?
Without it, yeah.
I think that's fair. For our purposes, let's slot it in S tier. Yeah. But I do think that regardless of whether you're using Xanathars or not, the flexibility of spell casting and your ability, I think Eldritch Knight works with any play style, but I especially like them with the Shield Bearer. It's
a very obnoxious amount of armor class.
Yeah, the armor class and just tricks to...
Yeah.
And like, you combine them being completely defendable with Blade Ward, Mirror Image, Shield, with things like having a familiar to give them advantage, maybe Conjure Minor Elementals to dish more damage. Like, you are a damage-dealing tank. You hit like a truck, and you're as hard to hurt as a truck. I don't know. I've never hurt a truck. A truck hurts me. So there you go. They're amazing.
Like, I think that the tough part with the Eldritch Knight is that your spell slots are a long rest resource and you don't have a lot of them.
Yeah.
Right. So it really behooves you to be like, okay, so what is my main play here? And that tends to be concentrating on something like Enlarge, Reduce, or Spirit Shroud, or Conjure Minor Elementals, and then using Misty Step or Mirror Image or Shield when you really need them. And then you've always got Blade Ward and Booming Blade as your fallback. And just looking at those two things on their own, especially because Eldritch Knights do get the weapon masteries, the Booming Blade plus Push Weapon Mastery property combo is good.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it is.
That is strong on its own. And especially when like potentially you are combining that with different types of weapon masteries. Like, you know, if you can throw a topple in there somewhere, like knock somebody prone with a topple, switch the weapon mastery over to push, hit them with Booming Blade and push them back. Like you get some just nice, obnoxious plays.
Yeah.
That I quite like. I think it's, again, S tier for me.
S tier.
Yeah.
Next up, we come to the Psi Warrior as our final subclass in the 2024 PHB. They use their psychic capabilities to enhance their combat powers. So let's talk about what the Psi Warrior gets. At 3rd level, they get their psionic power. This is their ability to use psionic energy dice, which they use to fuel the multiple psionic powers into their attacks and otherwise. Right away at 3rd level, you're going to have 4d6 for your psionic energy dice, but this goes up and it goes up fast.
And the die size scales up fast.
Yeah.
So by 9th level, you've got 8d8 psionic energy dice, and by 17th level, it's 12d12. You only get one of these back per short rest.
Yeah.
But you get all of them back on a long rest. So you can run out of gas.
If you're using them on everything. But
Yeah.
the 3 capabilities that you get right away at 3rd level are Protective Field. Protective Field allows you to use a reaction to decrease the amount of damage by your superiority die for either you or another creature within 30 feet of you. So you can protect your allies a little bit with that. Psionic Strikes. Very simply, you're adding it to your damage roll on your weapon attack. And Telekinetic Movement, you kind of expend the psionic energy die to move a creature 30 feet.
It is as an action, and it has to be either a creature, a willing creature, or an object. So you can only do this to move your allies around. So telekinetic movement is weird because it uses the word transport. So it doesn't say move, and it doesn't say teleport. It is transport. So the only thing I don't know is whether you are, and I think the implication here is that it's telekinetic, so you are like lifting them up and moving them physically, like they're not being teleported, but it's just an interesting choice of words.
I have used this ability, though, in the past to get my allies out of harm's way. Yeah, the crazy thing about telekinetic movement is that it's a size restriction, not a weight restriction.
Yeah.
So it's large or smaller?
Yeah, so in theory, if the object occupies a 10 by 10, that's a large object.
And so the sarcophagus, which was arguably a few hundred pounds, I just slid it under the door.
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of tactful uses for telekinetic movement.
Yeah. Now, at level 7, you got Telekinetic Adept. This is going to do 2 things. First, it's going to give you a Psi-powered leap, which is a bonus action. You can give yourself a flying speed of twice your movement speed till the end of the turn. So you're not permanently aloft. It is like a super jump, which is why it's called Psi-powered leap.
It's not flying, it's falling with style.
Well, if you're still in the air at the end of your turn, you do just fall.
And I was quoting Toy Story.
I knew that you were.
But yeah, it is, I always think of, I don't know why this jumps into my head, but it's Doomsday. Superman versus Doomsday. Superman can fly. Doomsday doesn't fly. He just jumps miles. And so they do fight in the air because Doomsday can just like leap up into the, anyway, big fan of the Death of Superman comic. It's a good one.
Then we got Telekinetic Thrust. This means that when you do use your Psionic Strike, you can force the target to make a saving throw, either to be pushed or knocked prone. Now, we've talked about, again, how good this is with weapon mastery, because you can do both. You get, if you are using a push weapon or a topple weapon, you can now push and topple at the same time. Incidentally, the target's going to get to make multiple saving throws in that case. And the only downside here is that the saving throw DC is based on your int.
So you are going to, with the Psi Warrior, you may want to invest a little bit in int as well. Maybe instead of wisdom, or maybe you want it to be one of your better stats.
Yeah, it's a strength saving throw for them to make against your int. So unless you are really like stacking your int up, which is hard to do for a fighter, it's your saving throw DC is not going to be great.
You know what a Psi Warrior loves? A headband of intellect.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
Now, with Guarded Mind, you are resistant to psychic damage. And if you start your turn under the influences of a fear or charm effect, you can expend a psionic energy die to just get rid of that. No action required.
Level 15, you got Bulwark of Force. This one is kind of weird to understand what actually is happening here. It is allows you to spend a psionic energy die, choose a number of creatures equal to your int mod. So again, I hope your int mod is at least +2, so that it's not just you. And those creatures all get 3/4 cover. What does 3/4 cover do? It's basically +2 AC. I wish it just was like plus.
They could have just said +2 AC, but they didn't. But we figured it out.
Yeah.
We figured it out for you. It's +2 AC.
And finally, at level 18, you get Telekinetic Master, and this lets you spend psionic energy die to cast telekinesis as the spell. Again, it's going to be based on your int mod, so good luck sticking this. But at least as long as you're concentrating on it, you get to make melee attacks as a bonus action.
Yeah. So with the Psi Warrior, pros and cons. My big con for the Psi Warrior is that you will want to invest in your intelligence, but that's doable. That is completely doable. We had a 13 in our wisdom in our build guide, but you could just put a 13 in intelligence. You could also boost your intelligence using one of your options, you get more ability score increases than any other class. So fighters do have the capability of boosting ability scores more than any other class does. Also, if you get your hands on a headband of intellect. So there are many ways to solve that problem, and that's my only negative. My positive is that as a fighter, what do we want to be doing? We want to protect our friends. We want to hit hard in combat. And if we can, we love battlefield control. The Psi Warrior pushes us in a better direction in all three of those things.
Yeah.
So, and you get to fly at later levels. Jump, good. You get to jump really, really good. But let's talk about this. Let's say, oh no, we've come across a pit of lava that is like 20 feet wide. What are we going to do? You could telekinetic movement all of your allies across and then jump over. So there you are, solving problems.
Yeah, the fact that you can move your friends 30 feet telekinetically is... the utility aspect of that is really powerful. The downside to it in combat is that it's a magic action.
Yeah, in combat it's tough, but like even I'm thinking, get your archer to the vantage point, get your barbarian into like there are reasons why.
And it does, just being able to telekinetically interact with the environment and objects in that way has a lot of potential.
I think the Psi Warrior is actually one of the better options for out of combat features.
And I think that if you're a creative player as well, the telekinetic movement is going to offer a lot. I think that there's less synergy with build options than the S tier options, and I don't think the Psi Warrior is close to the S tier.
But I like the Psi Warrior enough that I'm willing to say it's an A tier option. It excels the base class in meaningful ways in almost every category.
Yes, I agree with you on that. Sometimes we like to say something's like an A- or an A+, and my leaning with the Psi Warrior is that it's like an A-.
I can agree to that. I can get behind that, but when we give minuses or pluses, it still safely fits into that spectrum. We're just trying to show whether or not it's a strong A or a weak A. Still an A, but the Psi Warrior is like leaning towards B, but it is definitely, there's nothing here that isn't pushing it in a direction that we want fighters to be pushed in. And that's where it's
I agree.
Great.
Yeah. I think that there's a case to be made that it's all kind of like, I think that the Psi Warrior is absolutely better than the champion.
Yeah, me too.
But I don't think it's as good as the Eldritch Knight, and I don't think it's anywhere close to the Battlemaster.
Which works, because are we ready to look at our final rankings?
Let's take a look at the final rankings overall.
So up on screen right now, these are the final rankings. Battlemaster and Eldritch Knight might be the best options for your fighter, or
which do you put on the top of the S tier? Battlemaster or Eldritch Knight?
You know, it's tough. It is tough. So this is the thing, is I think they're two different flavors of ice cream that are both amazing. The Battlemaster is, I want to be a fighter. I do not care about magic. Magic is not the fantasy I want to live out with my fighter. Battlemaster's your go-to. I do like magic, and I want to play a spell sword or Gish type character. Eldritch Knight is the best. So I really do think it's two amazing flavors of ice cream. Okay,
so I'm not going to officially change my rankings, but I'm just going to be the pessimistic Monty.
Okay.
The pessimistic Monty says that, or maybe not the pessimistic one. One of the qualities of S tier is that we said that things are overpowered and dominant.
Yeah.
And I do think the Battlemaster and the Eldritch Knight can be overpowered and dominant, but not to the same degree that, say, if we were looking at other classes, S tiers are.
I agree. They're both basically S minuses in the sense that one thing that you want to be careful of, sometimes S tiers can be a bad thing for the game. Sometimes an S tier means that there's a gap and that one option is standing out so far beyond the others that it almost becomes pointless to play something that isn't the S tier. This is not the case with the fighter. The ones that we're giving S tier to are strong in every situation. There's almost no wrong way to play them. And if you are playing into their strengths, you are dominating the battlefield. But if you do have a Psi Warrior or a champion at the table, they are not going to be hurting for doing what fighters love to do.
Yeah. So there's the pessimistic part of me says you could bump everything down a tier, and I would not. You could make a convincing argument that everything should be bumped down a tier, and I would also say that the Eldritch Knight comes out ahead of the Battlemaster. Whether or not the Eldritch Knight comes out ahead of the Battlemaster is dependent on, are you letting the Eldritch Knight use the content from other Xanathars and things like that. I think that when you are, yes, it absolutely had, like, the top tier Eldritch Knight builds I think are going to be stronger than the top tier Battlemaster builds. I think the other thing that the Eldritch Knight has going for it is that if you sneak in Fey Touched and grab Hunter's Mark and do a dual wielder build, so you completely outranger the ranger, I think you're really doing pretty nice as the dual wielder. I think that the dual wielding Eldritch Knight or the sword and shield Eldritch Knight are amazing. I don't know, the Eldritch Knight is fine with the other builds, but I don't think it's as, like, the Eldritch Knight, the least exciting Eldritch Knight to me is the Archer Eldritch Knight. Whereas the Battlemaster Archer, I think, is...
I actually think the Battlemaster Archer is one of the best builds in the game for a ranged combatant. My pessimistic take would be to bump the Battlemaster and Eldritch Knight to an A, leave the champion in a B, but put the Psi Warrior as a B+.
Yeah.
But really what that tells you is that the fighters in the 2024 rules are really well designed, and there's not much of a gap here.
No.
If somebody came to my table playing a champion, I'm not going to be like, oh, bad choice. Like, you come to my table with any of these fighters, it's a good choice. It's really more about play style.
Well, and when it comes down to playstyle, there's just way more customization to the Battlemaster and the Eldritch Knight. Because you've got maneuvers and because you've got spells, there's more opportunity for a synergistic combination of spells, maneuvers, feats, and weapon masteries to launch them into the SS tier.
If you say that, if you look at the way we rank this, the rankings go up based on how versatile it is.
Yeah.
Champion is the least versatile, and so it's a B. Psi Warrior, some versatility, because you do have options on what you use your psionic abilities
it's just
for.
that everybody gets the same thing.
Yeah. So it's an A. Battlemaster and Eldritch Knight, complete customizability, which means that they are S tier. So that's actually really interesting.
And so I think within the Battlemaster and the Eldritch Knight, could you build an Eldritch Knight and a Battlemaster that through a not great choice of spells and maneuvers are kind of Yeah.
Like, if I'm an Eldritch Knight and I take, I don't know, I know that you pointed out the Necromancy Eldritch Knight, but I don't think it's the right choice. But it could be fun.
Honestly, okay, hold on though. You could do Animate Dead on the Eldritch Knight.
Army of Skeletons?
Yeah.
Actually, now I want to play a Necromantic Eldritch Knight. Okay, I take it back. It's awesome. It's so awesome.
Oh, man. Actually, you could.
Army of the Dead. You are the leader of the Army of the Dead.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to play a Grim Dark Eldritch Knight. Let me do it.
See,
my little emo heart. My little emo heart.
You could also be a Summoner Eldritch Knight.
Yeah. Okay, I take it back. Eldritch Knight is just so good. But, yeah.
Yeah.
So these are our rankings for the fighter subclasses in the 2024 PHB. Tell us your thoughts and what your favorite subclasses are in the comments below.
The videos that we create on our channel are made possible thanks to the incredible generosity of our Patreon supporters. If you enjoy the work that we do here on YouTube, please consider supporting the channel by becoming a patron. The links are right down below.
And naturally, on our actual play, we have a Battlemaster and an Eldritch Knight. So if you want to see those in play, you can check out our Adventures in the World of Drakenheim, which airs Tuesday evenings here on YouTube. You can check out all the previous episodes right up over here.
And we've got plenty more class guides and tier rankings for the 2024 rules. You can check out all those videos in this playlist here.
Please subscribe to our channel, like this video, and ring that bell so that you never miss an episode.
Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time
in the dungeon.